Alrighty, I'm here today with Will, who is the head of customer success at Tability. Thanks so much for joining us, Will.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. So, Will recently gave an awesome presentation in San Francisco about how to build AI features into your applications, how to think about it, how to do it intelligently. And I wanted to have you on today because I wanted to really unpack that, right? We see AI kind of being shoved into every product we're using, whether it's an AI native product or not. But what I found interesting about your talk and what I wanted to dive deeper into today was, this is actually not a new phenomena, and we have tools that are going to allow us to integrate AI in an intelligent way, right? So I wanted to start off. What do you see as the biggest challenge when people are building AI features today?
Yeah, I think especially with the sort of meteoric rise of the availability of AI, everyone was in this just rush to put something with AI into their product so they could have that big tagline on the website that just says, "We have AI, whatever." And I think the big problem that a lot of folks have been running into is, are we making AI products that are providing value to people, or are we making AI products so that we can tick a box and have something there? And I think one of the big reasons that this is not just like a, well, yeah, whatever, but like we'll have some marketing around it, so we'll do it and it's okay, is because not only is this going to give our users a worse experience. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
going in and I see an AI product that's supposed to help me out and then it doesn't actually help me, I'm starting to lose trust in that brand immediately of, well, what else are they building that's not going to be super useful for me? But on the flip side, working at an organization that has AI features in it, we're wanting to consider about sort of what does the future look like for AI, both around the products that we can build, but then also around the cost that it's going to be. Like right now, AI is very affordable for large amounts of queries. But if you look at like the AI chip manufacturers, like it costs a lot for those actual queries in electricity costs and water costs. And when we're thinking about, at some point, these organizations are going to need to pivot and start making money. Those costs are going to increase, which means that the features that we're going to use also need to be something that's worth it. We're going to need to start charging for these features at a higher rate. If they are baked into our products, the subscription costs are going to end up going up. And that means that these features can't just be, whatever we put in. Like right now, we have a lot of these sort of like low stakes and low value features that can be useful, but aren't going to be life changing for our users. And we need to figure out how we can make these features that are really high value and can drive some sort of real high usage for our features for our users, that gets them to the point where they're like, all right, I can't live without this. Now I will pay for it if that cost is going to be coming down to me.
I love where you took that because a lot of the discussion around AI today is it's completely useless or it is the end all be all, it's the future of work, it's everything. And obviously it's somewhere in between. I think it's a little bit more on the, super valuable side. But what I liked when you broke that down was even within AI as valuable features, there's AI features within the context of your specific product that are extremely valuable or not extremely valuable. So it's really independent of the actual ability of the AI in that case to perform, but actually within the context. And I'd love for you to walk me through how you started to integrate AI features that you felt were high value at Tability. Walk me through that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it starts before I joined Tability. I used to work for a competitor. We were shuttering down. I got to meet our current CEO, and just to sort of talk shop about what went well, what didn't go well. And I remember like my big dream that I used to talk to our CTO about and our head of product about at my old company
Mm-hmm.
was like, man, like if we could write goals for people, that would be it. So I work for an OKR company. So we're all about being able to track good goals that are set and using OKRs as the sort of jumping off point. And having a methodology means that you have to have folks who are setting things up to that methodology because that's how we're building the tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's always been like the biggest issue and the biggest hurdle with new users who are onboarding, where they're either new to OKRs in general or they've been doing them sort of poorly, but they've been doing them in a spreadsheet. And so, they can get away with not having really best practices. But when you get into a product, we're building a product to be able to support those best practices. We want people to be able to have things set up in that way, because if they're not, they start to think, well, maybe OKRs aren't for us, and they're going to churn, they're going to leave our organization. So it's the biggest problem that our users have. And it was always this sort of like fanciful thinking, like, oh, some sort of wizard that could put together your OKRs for you. That way people are starting off on the right foot, everything's structured the right way, so they don't have to do as much in order to get that initial setup. They feel more confident about the process, which means they feel more confident about the product. And I'm not going to take full credit for Sten developing this, but flash forward to ChatGPT coming out, and I think one of the first things that we said was, all right, well, like, does this understand OKRs? Mm-hmm. Because if we can get to the place where we're able to solve that main user problem, that big pain, we're going to be able to get our users to be much more successful, to stick around longer, to be able to expand faster. All of the things we want for a business come from making sure that they can solve this one particular problem, do it well. And so I think when we started going into like, all right, can we integrate AI features into this? And can we use ChatGPT to build OKRs for our customers? The big thing was just like, is there a main problem that our users have? Yes, it's setting up these kinds of goals. And then is there a specific job that this AI feature will do and will do well that customers will want to then hire that product for? So we use like jobs to be done as the way of thinking about like, how are we going to build our features? And so when we're thinking about like this job that we want it to do, which is develop these OKRs, like that's mostly how we want to focus on building that up.
Well, and back me up.
So we were able to
back me up real quick. Tell me, just give us a broad overview of Tability, because I understand, but you're talking about OKRs. If people aren't familiar, objectives and key results. It's a goal setting or objective setting methodology for businesses and management. But show me, Tability, it sounds like, is using AI to help write OKRs across the organization to better set goals. But tell me how it fits into Tability, the product, right? What's the product?
Yeah, absolutely. So with our product, we take your objectives and key results and we then put them into a dashboard that is used for not only measuring progress, but also trying to give some of those future-looking insights into whether this goal is going to be successful. Mm-hmm. So we take a lot of like real human information that isn't going to appear in a metric or isn't going to appear in a standard dashboard and try to unlock that for tracking an OKR over time. So we use what's called confidence, which is red, yellow, green. Do we feel like we're going to hit this goal? We take a metric to associate with that confidence. Hey, I don't think we're going to hit it because we're at 25% of the way towards our goal. And then we try to have that all presented in a way that's very clean. Now, in order to have all of this data and all of this ability for people to say, our revenue numbers are looking great or our revenue numbers aren't looking great, but I'm not worried because I know we have deals in the pipeline. I need to have goals that are easy to track. I need to have goals that have metrics associated with them. I need to have goals that are structured to that OKR process. So the big objective, I can have sort of be this fanciful big objective, but my key results all need to be very specific, very measurable. So you feel like, say, hey, if we do all of
previously, you would say before AI at Tability, your customers struggled to define the objectives and key results with clarity. Is that fair?
Exactly. Not only that, but just even taking it a step further. Like the first time you land in a product and you've just got an open, empty canvas, struggling to figure out what am I even supposed to put in.
I love that. I think that's a great killer use case for AI, because I've found that in my personal experiences when using AI products is a lot of times you get to an interface and it's completely blank and they're like, create whatever you want. And I personally ran into this problem. Early in my career, I was involved in 3D printing, and I was trying to show people, hey, with 3D printing, you can build whatever you want. But to most people, that was kind of like saying, there's a blank page, right? I'm selling you a blank page. Well, that's not useful. But if I said, hey, you can write on this page, there's actually words. Do you like the words or not? People instantly have a reaction to that. So that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, and it's a very good example or a good sort of simile with what we're doing too. Like if you give someone a product and it's like, hey, you can go design whatever you want. Not only do I have to learn how 3D printing works, but now I have to go design something. If I can just type in, I need a new connector for my hose, and it automatically populates the design for me, that gives me a much better way of at least going all right, cool. I can know what this is supposed to do. I can see what I'm
even one step before that is, saying, hey, do you want me to generate a hose for you? Right? It's telling me text in advance, and I think that's a really special feature. So Tability, it makes it easy to organize all the company's OKRs. Does it do it in different styles, or do you have kind of like a, hey, we're the expert Tability and we know how to run OKRs well, and you come to us not only for the visual interface, but also knowing that your OKRs are well defined? Because I personally had this issue where I've tried to do OKRs in the past, hasn't been particularly successful. If I were to go back to the root problem, it'd probably be I wasn't clear enough and it wasn't visually accountable. So it makes total sense to me, but tell me more.
Yeah, 100%. I was just talking to someone the other day who was saying that that was their big problem. Like they generally know what they're trying to get to, but they need something that can put it into the constraints that is going to make this successful. And so like it's very much the, if I have the complete total reign and I just want a little bit of help like figuring things out, you get about 50% of the way towards success. But if it's, hey, I need someone who is going to be the expert at this, who can just tell me, take what my general problem is and structure it for me, get me into the right place, that's where I want to go. And so it's like why people hire consultants. And we're just trying to like sort of mimic that consultancy into the product. And I think we actually went about it in a way that was learning from a lot of those earlier experiences with people who maybe weren't quite ready for that as big of just like a general, hey, here's what an OKR looks like, and then we'll go off and run with it. Right. And so like the way that we used to have it was a one prompt, type in your problem, hit enter, we'll generate an OKR for you, and you can use it or you can not.
Starting simple. Makes sense.
Yeah. Right. And people would, and then they still have to go in and they have to refine their goals and they have to make some changes. And so we realized like having the prompt be very clear and very well written is one thing, but we still need people to be prompted as well. Like you can prompt the AI and give it on guardrails, but in order to get good data in, we also need to prompt our users. And so we switched up the way that we built out the experience of using our AI as well. So instead of it just being, tell us your problem, we'll create a goal for you, it was, what are you overall trying to achieve? People generally know, like, I want to increase sales. I want to have better uptime. So we can sort of give them our objective a lot easier. How do you know it's successful? How are you going to measure whether or not you've achieved it? Oh, well, we need more revenue. Oh, well, we need to have that uptime be above 99.99%. And so they'll start to give a little bit more context and data in, and then we can structure everything for them and still work them through. But after we have that, we still don't know a lot about everyone's individual businesses. We're not, consuming everything in, especially on a free trial, to try to spit that out. And so we offered up a way of just communicating back and forth with the bot. So instead of it just being, here's your suggestion, use it or don't use it, we made that process of refining and of trusting, hey, this is actually going to know what this is about. This is actually what my business is looking for. We built that into the product. Hey, we gave you a goal about increasing the number of customer touch points that you have during a renewal process. And you're like, well, we actually don't do that. We're totally self-serve. We don't need that. All right, great. You can tell the AI, you can refine it in, and it doesn't feel like you're working with AI. It feels like you're working with someone directly through a support.
Well,
channel.
I love the.
So we actually end up getting.
I love the interactivity of that because, when we've been using software for the majority of our life, it is pretty one-way interaction. Like we're typing stuff in Word, and Word is just putting the letters on a screen, right? Or maybe we're scrolling through Facebook and we're seeing the post that the algorithm gives us. But now, as AI has kind of expanded throughout the economy, many users have realized, hey, if I like this post on Facebook, or if I comment, or if I share it to a friend, Facebook is going to give me more of those posts. But we don't see that so much in enterprise or SMB software. But that's the personal element of generative AI that I think is really special that you're doing is you can start out with a prompt, you can start out with a one-way, just easy interaction, but then the continuous tuning and making it interactive and making it feel egoless, right, is so important, I think.
Oh yeah, I think one of the companies that I see that does this very well is like Intercom, and my full disclaimer here: I used to work at Intercom way back before they had chatbots in there, but Intercom does a really nice way of marrying that like human input and then the AI input, right? So not only you can have the customer facing chatbot, and that's going to be something that's going to be useful for knocking out tickets and stuff like that. But where I think they really shine is with what they call like their co-pilot, where it's AI that's going to learn alongside you. It's looking at all the tickets that you're using. It's finding commonalities. It's reading your help center. It's suggesting these articles all to an agent instead of just sort of being something that's dropped into a chat. And as you work with it, as you have more conversations, it's able to both find the things that you're looking for, but also do things like reword macros. So like your canned responses into your own human voice. And I think that's where like we're going to get a lot more of these AI functionalities going. Is it's not just about, can this do a task? Can it do a repetitive task? Can it sort of enable my team to scale back on some of the boring stuff? It's going to be, hey, can I use AI to feel more like I'm a superhuman and able to push a lot of this sort of customization forward in a way that still feels very much like I've got something that's got my back, but we're not going to lose out on what makes our business, whether that's our brand voice, whether that's our agent's voice. We still want to make sure that we have the things that make businesses really attractive for end users. We don't want to lose out on that just because we've built out a bunch of AI and then everything's speaking in ChatGPT voice. So I think like this is the way that we're going, is that interactivity, but also that customization to it too, where I can say, oh no, don't show me that stuff anymore. Give me more of that, and then learn who I am as a person instead of it just being regurgitated knowledge.
And with that, we're talking a lot about good examples of people building AI features into their core product. It's my understanding that you're big fans of the jobs to be done framework. What is that?
Yeah, so jobs to be done is, at its most basic, is just the idea that customers don't buy software because they like it, right? Like no one sees a big advertisement for Salesforce and goes, oh, wow, that's beautiful, that ad. I'm going to go buy Salesforce. Like, no, we all hire software to do a job for us, whether that's, managing our customers or talking with our customers or sending out marketing communications. And when the product that people hire for this job no longer does that job, or people no longer need that job done, they're going to end up churning or firing the product from the job that they had hired it to do. So all of this comes from, this idea of they were trying to make a better milkshake for a fast food company, and they tested out a bunch of things of, we'll make it more chocolatey, we'll change the price, we'll make it more chewy. And sales didn't change at all because people didn't really care about the flavor to that extent that it was going to drive sales. When they realized people were getting it for breakfast because they needed something to do with their hands that was a simple, easy way of having on your commute that's going to be filling and give you a quick jolt of energy, they realized, all right, cool, maybe we start to change the way that we present our milkshake in a way to get people to buy it more at breakfast time. Then they saw sales go up. Yeah. And so the same thing with software. Like when we're building out software, we don't want it to just be something where we have like a feature or a functionality that doesn't really do anything or doesn't really solve a problem that our users have. I use the example of like pitch.com has a AI generator for so pitch.com, they make pitch decks. It's just like another slideshow creator tool. But they'll have like an AI generator for your theme, which is just like a template creator, but it doesn't really do anything. It just sort of like puts in some stock images from whatever the title of your presentation is. And then you have to make all those changes, and nothing's really related. So it's not really fulfilling a job. But when you think about like other tools like Tability, like Intercom, or like the app Fireflies, where it's going to use AI to automatically create meeting summaries. So I have it running in the background of my meeting. It takes all of my notes. It creates a summary with action items. Like that's something that I would have had to do by either taking furious notes and only half listening during my conversation, or by reviewing a big long transcript and then retyping it out. So it's like solving a problem and it's doing a job. And so our big thing with jobs to be done is not only do we need to make sure that tools are going to be doing a specific job, but that they're also going to be doing a job that solves a problem. Because we can have a bunch of jobs that aren't really useful. So I think I was looking like there's an AI toothbrush that Oral-B has that has a great job. Like it's supposed to tell you which teeth you're missing and like how frequently you're brushing your back molars or whatever. But is that solving the problem for people where they're actively thinking like, oh, I really need to investigate my toothbrushing? outside of like the 5 minutes that you're sitting at the dentist. So like making sure that we're finding jobs, but those jobs are actually useful and are solving problems, I think is like the big way of thinking about jobs to be done. It's not just can we build something that does something? It's why are we building this and what does it do? And is that going to be something that people care about?
Yeah, and I think that's a great example because I just did an interview with someone and he was talking about a person he worked with hated building PowerPoints, right? And so you would think the pitch.com AI generator would be right up their alley. But what he said they did was they went and talked to, I think it was Claude, and was like, hey, I don't like creating PowerPoints. How could I like automatically create PowerPoints? And Claude obviously knows that there's a Microsoft programming language called VBA that can programmatically generate PowerPoints. And so the person was like, well, tell me how to do that, right? And they were able to create PowerPoints in the style that they wanted. But I put those two in juxtaposition because it's the same use case, creating PowerPoints. And maybe where the pitch.com feature is lacking today, because I've personally tried to use it and it hasn't been all that helpful, is when I'm making PowerPoints, I kind of want a design that looks nice, a design that's proven for someone who's not a designer, right? And so when I don't really want to generate all sorts of wonky designs, I want a design that looks nice with the structure of my content to emphasize the points I want. But that's pretty hard to extrapolate. So you probably need something more like what Tability is currently doing, where you've got a back and forth. And if I was able to chat with each individual slide and say, hey, make this, how do I make this sentence or this point the centerpiece of a slide? And then it generates a design based on proven design principles, I'm excited about that. But if it's just taking my content and putting bullet points on a slide, what am I really getting, right?
And that's, I think, where we get into that low value versus high value, right? If low value is pick out the template for me and set my fonts, and that's where we're at right now. High value is, all right, I have my ideas. I need someone to structure them. I also need to make sure that this is going to look like what it's supposed to go look like. And once we get to like that level, that becomes something where it's a very different conversation. I use the free version of Pitch because it does most of what I need it to do. But you tell me that I don't have to spend that time designing, and I can just sort of give you my outline, and you'll spit out the doc for me. That becomes a whole different thing, and now I'm signing up for the premium plan because it has that value behind it. That's going to be beyond just like a nice
part of a broader workflow, right? So if there's a workflow within your company that takes interviews and converts interviews to reports using AI, and then you build another workflow that takes those reports and uses VBA or pitch.com to generate engaging PowerPoint slides, just like how you would with text in your voice, well, in your own design system or library, that to me could definitely be a high value usage of AI. But like the whole point of today's conversation, you really have to understand exactly what the software is being hired for. And when I hire Pitch, what I think I'm buying is nicer looking PowerPoint templates, right? I just kind of want the templates and the fonts and the color schemes and not have to think about that. I don't really need to reinvent the wheel in terms of design. And I've had this exact same experience trying Canva, which once again, I love Pitch as a product. I love Canva as a product, but the AI generators for, creating a YouTube thumbnail or creating a little quote graphic for LinkedIn, I've not personally found success with that, right?
Yeah, and this is, I think the excitement to get AI that skips over like what are our users trying to do and where are our users having the biggest problem. So like I generated an Instagram ad for the talk that we were at, and it's just like party balloons. It looked like it was a birthday invitation for a kid named Integrity. It made no sense at all in that context. And I went to Canva originally because I needed to have some levels of designs. I am not a designer by trade, so like there are ways to help these kinds of things out. There are also times to consider that this might just not be where we're at yet, right? Like if we're using AI that just isn't going to be powerful enough to do the job that we think it's going to do, because it's a great idea, right? That magic design's an awesome idea. If I'm coming in with no design background and I just need something quick and dirty and easy, like yeah, that's a cool functionality to have. In the moment that that's working really well, that's going to do a job for me, and that's going to be something that I'm going to want to hire to help me with some of the faster things that I need to put out. If I need a blog header, if I need a YouTube thumbnail, that's going to be great. But if it's not going to do that, then I'm not going to sit back here and wait and like, oh, cool, like I need more AI credits because I've already gone through 5. Like I'm not going to get more because there's no point to it. And it just turns into something where it's like, well, and is Canva going to be the one that I'm going to look at for an AI designed functionality, or is there going to be someone else that can come up? I'm going to give them the shot first because I've already been burned.
Well, this is a great lead in. So one of my big questions I want to ask you are, what are some questions that product teams should be asking themselves when thinking about building AI powered features and then evaluating the success, right? Because we've talked about a couple of companies that from outside looking in, we feel like are not personally solving our jobs to be done. But what questions should product teams be thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost is like, I guess even before that, before we even start thinking about the products that people should build or the feature sets that people should build, we need to have a very, very strong grasp on who is using this product. Like if I think, pitch is a great example, right? Like these are, who's using it? People who need to have better looking presentations, people who need to have presentations that aren't going to be able to be built. Generally, people who don't want to spend a ton of time doing design because they don't have design backgrounds. And so when we know that like this is our audience, then we can start to figure out, well, like then what are the big problems that they run into? Why did they come to our software in the first place? And then what are the problems that they're still experiencing after coming to our software? So going back to our example at Tability, we know that the number one problem people have was building out their OKRs. If we can solve for that problem, people are going to be happier. They're going to stay customers longer. So before you start even thinking about the job that this feature is going to do, like what is the problem that our customers have that we're trying to solve? So that would be my number one thing. Next big thing is then if we're going to try to build an AI feature for it, is this going to adequately address the problem? Do we have an AI that is going to be able to fulfill the promises that we're going to make by having this feature? I don't think Magic Design by Canva fulfills its promise of being able to generate this design. If we can fulfill that promise with AI, if we're doing the testing on it and we're saying, oh, this is giving us the good results, that's where we can start to say, all right, let's put this in here. How can we make it fit in with the rest of our product so that it feels like a clear part of the workflow instead of like a separate way that I have to go? So for example, for Tability, if we built an AI generator and you could only use it on the marketing website where it's a separate little like pop-up, and then you have to copy and paste everything or retype everything out, it's useful, but it doesn't feel integrated with the workflow that people are going for. So right now, if you generate your OKRs, you just hit a button and we automatically put everything into the app for you. So it's there, it's structured, it doesn't feel like you're in multiple places at once. It's all going to sort of be that seamless workflow. So can this AI feature fit in with whatever someone has to do next? So we solve the problem, we do the job, and then it's going to fit in seamlessly.
Well, and I think
beyond,
well, real quick on that,
yeah,
going back to our pitch example, because I think which step in a user's workflow you integrate AI is so important. Because when I'm thinking back now deeper through this conversation, when I'm using pitch, I have a loose idea of the concepts I want to convey in a somewhat linear fashion. But my big issue with pitch is like, I need to visually present that. And so what I'd rather have as an AI feature is a little chatbot on the side as I'm building slides that could either recommend, if I go in and I say, hey, I want to make this point big and bold, front and center, what are some ways I can do that? And then he would either tell me via text or manipulate that slide, make a duplicate, and make a new version of that individual slide. Because that's my workflow, is I'm working slide by slide. I'm not generating a whole presentation because that's not possible today for one person to sit down and do all the slides at once. So I like what you're saying, the contrast with Tability, where it's a true understanding of users and you're kind of compressing the time it takes and filling in manual work with clear expectations, right?
Absolutely. And I think all of this just really goes back to like, are we building out function or features because we want to have a flashy AI feature, or are we building substantive features that are going to help our users? So like, I mean, if I could make one question overall, the number one thing that people should ask is just like, Why would we build this feature? Who is it supposed to help? What is it supposed to help them do? And does it make sense for where we're at in the side of the product? I'm going to stop there because otherwise I can ask about 100 other questions about figuring out the other places that we can use AI, the other mild features that we can have. But I think just like the big thing is just, is this going to be useful? Is this going to fit into that workflow? And does it actually do the job that we say it's going to do?
Well, I think that's perfect. I think that's a great spot to wrap. I really appreciate you taking the time because you've really given us a tactical, actionable framework for entrepreneurs and product leaders to be able to go and truly evaluate, should I bring AI into my product? How should I go about it? And how it can actually be successful. So I really appreciate you taking the time, Will, to share with everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a blast.
Cool. Thanks so much.